Hello and good morning from here in the US. On this chilly AM, we are going to be warming up to a lovely conversation. So thank you to everyone for joining this fireside chat on what is an ever relevant and pressing topic of our time, overcoming digital transformation challenges. Everyone wants their company to be modern, digital, and efficient. Digital is top of mind for most, if not all, C-level executives. Everyone is talking about which technology to adopt that will accelerate their business. What we tend to forget, however, is that there are two sides to the equation in digitization. On one hand, you have technology. Technology is key, and you need to make some sound choices here. But technology alone can only bring you so far. The other side of the equation is humans. Digitization brings a unique opportunity to change the embedded ways of working and make it better using technology. This in turn brings about changes in the internal operations, new roles and responsibilities, and updated processes. Sounds easy, right? Hi, I'm Murtaza, Account Manager for Royal Cyber, a global IT services and consulting organization. We work with a number of our clients to address key steps in their digital transformation journey. With me today is Jean Parker, an exemplary IT and business executive with experience in various industries and a background in industrial engineering, Six Sigma, and IT project management. He has been highlighted, his career has been highlighted by roles at IBM, eBay, Belk, Premier Healthcare, and now Novant Health, along with his own consulting firm. In his current role, his core responsibility is leadership over digital product development, spanning Novant's web and mobile applications for patients and healthcare providers. Thank you, Jean, for joining us today and looking forward to an engaging conversation with you. And I'm sure you'll have great insights to share with our audience today.
Thanks, Murtaza. I appreciate the invite and the opportunity to speak on this important topic. You know, as you mentioned, my background is in engineering, Six Sigma, process stuff. So I am a bit of a process nerd along the way. But I've spent my entire career kind of deliberately straddling multiple lines of business, both in the consulting ranks, but also in the service delivery ranks and my own organization. And, you know, when we think about digital transformation, we speak of it and it's marketed as something that is kind of new, but for me, it's nothing new necessarily. I think the conditions within which we are attempting to do new transformative work have changed due to the speed of technology, but also the pandemic, et cetera, have changed the foundations. But you know, if you think back over my last 30 years working in the industry, we've always been transforming to some degree. Organizations like Project Management Institute and others have highlighted, you know, the struggle of IT programs and projects. You know, that failure rate has always been over 70%. But if you've gone from my first programming language of BASIC on a Radio Shack computer to, you know, to where we are today, we've been in this transformation. And so a lot of the stuff we'll talk about today is tried and true over time, but then there's some new things that we need to take into consideration as well.
All right, so let's kick off this discussion with an important statement which we all feel strongly about. Change is hard. As humans, we are pretty much hardwired to resist change. And so, while we all love the idea of a digital future, we don't actually want to change ourselves, or worse, be forced to change in order to achieve that. Human responses to change have been a widely studied subject, and findings show that we instinctively deny and fear the unknown. But with time, we move on to accept and even embrace change. So the real secret to success for an organization is then to perhaps start with humans rather than technology. Would you agree, Gene?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, certainly the technology and the impact it can have on teams and our businesses and the products that we bring to market is important. I oftentimes speak about the human beings in the room. Uh, the challenge of being a modern IT leader is one of having a technical competency for sure, but you almost have to be a social psychologist as well. Uh, our teams are more diverse now than they have ever been. In my organization, I have folks in their teens all the way through 60 plus. Imagine that on, just your standard team and the multiple generations that you have to manage. You layer on top of that ethnic diversity, regional diversity, global diversity, and various backgrounds, and you're creating a great mix of folks that can deliver really good stuff. But as you mentioned, the change is very hard, and it's taking more and more talent from a leadership perspective to parse all of that diversity, all of these dynamics, and getting the human beings to change. You're absolutely right that people and human beings don't like the change. They're not built for it. And a common term that is espoused is that you have to create a change ready organization. Uh, I'd actually tweak that a bit and say that you have to create a change seeking organization, teams that are seeking to change, teams that are seeking to disrupt and do it comfortably in a safe space. Um, I think that's really the where we try to and where my leadership lives and where we try to do what we try to do for our teams.
Perfect. I think great pointers mentioned there. I think you brought about the vision of embracing the user, the bottom up strategy that we have, bring everyone along on the journey, find internal ambassadors, to evangelize and lead the change. Think big but start small. So those are really great pointers. There is also a top-down approach to this by demonstrating courageous leadership. What have been your strategies, Gene, in leading the way to bring about the biggest impact?
So, from a top-down perspective, uh, I think to myself, and I challenge the leaders on my team to uh, consider their role. There is a burden of leadership, and in that burden, the reason why you may get paid a little bit more, may have a title, a bigger title that kind of maybe strokes the ego a little bit more and puts you in a position to be a curator of teams and a leader of individuals, comes with this top down kind of strategy that you need to employ. So you must be able to tie a mission and vision to tactics, to money, money's important, to the resources that you're employing in the field, to outcomes you can measure, and then rinse and repeat that cycle. So amongst your leadership team, and that must be clear and it must be decisive. So, there's a common phrase, fail fast. Well, that assumes that you make a decision. Oftentimes, organizations become paralyzed by not being able to make a decision or make the right decision at the right time. And, from a top down approach, you must have a sound mission vision and be able to tie that line all the way through an executable outcome, even if it doesn't work out. Uh, that must be clear. The framework must be solid. And, you know, in my experience, that's how you are able to engineer better outcomes of the organization. Now, you don't need to be a subject matter expert in all of the functional areas. You don't need to know every role. It's helpful if you know one of the roles or some of the roles that you're leading. But in the end, being able to tie that strategy to outcomes And, you know, I think one of the most important things we can do as leaders is in that decisive framework, choose what we're going to stop working on. Um, there's oftentimes like a cake and eat it too mentality, meaning we don't want to disrupt, we don't want to change, we want to keep everything as it is. So we don't want to stop work, but we want to do all new work. And oftentimes decisions of what you will clearly stop, even if it meant something to your business over time, or even if your team is super sticky on a product, uh, the foresight, and sometimes, as you mentioned, the courage, we call it professional courage. One of my leaders on my team, Laura Martin, brought this to the group: professional courage to make decisions that may not uh, hit everybody in the right space. So that courage is needed. And I actually think amongst adults who work, if that framework is clear, if it's transparent, that people can, in the end, respect the decisions on staffing, on strategy, what to start, what to stop. But it's got to be clean thinking around it, and it's got to be based on facts, data, um, and in alignment with, um, with overall strategy. And I would say, although you want to fail fast, it's important to win some as well. If you look at any sports team, it's great if you have a rah-rah coach who makes everyone feel good, and all the things are catered to you. You got foosball tables and tacos on Tuesdays and beer on Friday afternoons. But there is a thing: people are looking out for their families and for their careers. And as a leader, not only must you make those decisions, and you can fail every once in a while, but it's also important that you have to win sometimes, or a lot of the times, to keep your business afloat and to drive forward. So to that extent, winning is also something that is helpful, builds confidence, creates followership, create stronger teams as well.
Perfect. Yeah, I think we need to have a Ted Lasso on every team, right? If folks in the audience have seen that show, or I would really encourage them if you've not. I think
Yeah.
that's very important. Like you bring in that sense of a belonging to the team, as well as bring in some wins, right? That is important. That's what boosts up. And I think if you do those initial steps, make it a cohesive unit, your team, your digital teams, then I think I'm pretty sure that success will follow, right? So great pointers as always. To incorporate digital in company strategy and priorities, communicate the why, as you said, be courageous, show real commitment, and plan for constant adaptation and iteration, right? And not always for consistency. You need to mix things up, change things around, and I think you'll see success or those wins at the end of the day. So sounds like, if I were to summarize, the top-down approach should always be run in tandem with the bottom-up approach for the biggest impact. So, Gene, with a recent example, can you showcase to our audience how you've been able to bring about true digital transformation at your organization? And of course, a few pitfalls a change leader should avoid along the way.
Um, yeah, I mean, as I mentioned before, digital transformation is not necessarily new. So if you've tried to, like, for instance, roll out SAP or WebSphere Commerce or any of these kind of big ERP solutions over the past 30 years, you will recognize that it is very difficult work and has a high failure rate, and because they're very disruptive. I think one of the challenges now is that the digital space is now touching every corner of the organization. You have executives and partners and coworkers and peers sitting in every space, whether it's corporate communications or your HR department. Uh, all these spaces are dealing with technology now. They're getting tagged on LinkedIn and other spaces for new tools that incorporate AI, web solutions, all matter of technology. And it's more and more of us are walking, well, all of us really are walking around with a computer in our hand all day long. And it kind of makes us all kind of digital specialists to some degree. So really, the main uh, strategies that we've employed to kind of improve digital transformation initiatives is a dynamic um, communications plan, which is tying together the strategies of all of the disparate groups that are working on new tech. And probably the most important thing, the thing I like to talk about the most is risk management, even before organizational change management. The ability to identify the tailored risks that exist for your existing business. And it's different for every business based on your history, your product, your competition, the talent that you may have or the talent you may not have in-house. All of these things are part of your risk matrix, which is very unique to any particular business. And I would say different even within the same business, depending on the year and the conditions of that year. Certainly, your risk framework 2019 was a little bit different than 2020, which is a little bit different than 2022. And the ability to moderate, the ability to look at all the factors that are sitting in front of you, and then engineering or curating programs that implement technology is very important. It is oftentimes, I think earlier in our conversation, we talked about the technology. Sometimes you just want to install a new piece of code or install a new product and call it good. Oftentimes, if you've ever gone to any conference and you look at all the booths for all the technology that's out there, you have all of these point solutions solving micro problems, but you have to look at the end-to-end omni-channel total experience that all of that is bringing together. So steering committees, really deep architectural analysis, clarity on communications planning, who you're going to talk to, who's in charge, who's making decisions, what forms are being used, and hashing that out ahead of time and having a clean framework around how decisions get made, how they're communicated, what risks we're dealing with. And then you bring in, here are the opportunities for technology to impact amongst that framework, really cuts down on what I've seen to be sometimes crisscrossed leadership responsibility. As you mentioned, there were humans, so you've got everything from egos and insecurities and personalities. They all run the gambit and all have a negative impact on our ability to deliver. So the transformation initiatives that we've been successful to do really focus on that side of the house and then bring in the tech.
Awesome. So change cannot happen in a silo, right? More often than not, you need a strong partner along the way to help achieve your business outcomes. Kindly help outline how Royal Cyber has been a trusted partner for you on this journey.
Yeah. So, as a recap, we have a tremendous task at hand to deliver solutions in this environment. There's absolutely a talent shortage. Um, there absolutely are dynamics. We talked about the product teams with people from their teens to their 60 plus together. We're talking about highly competitive environments depending on, which industry you are working in. And it's nearly impossible if you have a core leadership group that's been in your organization for 15, 20 years, I'm sure they know your business very well. I'm sure that smart, talented folks, etc. But it's unlikely that there's the type of experience and talent, cross-functional, broad, you know, multiple businesses in-house to do everything. So you need partners. You absolutely need partners. We leverage organizations like Royal Cyber to augment, to fill in the gaps in spaces where uh, we don't have the talent today or may never need the talent, depending on what our strategies are. We leverage organizations and Royal Cyber in particular for a global workforce. Uh, the one of the most important, you talk about strategies on digital transformation. I believe digital transformation is a 24-hour a day business. Not that people have to work 24 hours a day, but it certainly is a 24-hour a day. And to find the right talent on key products and solutions is difficult. And Royal Cyber has helped to kind of fill in the gap, find the talent where we need it quickly, and deliver kind of great results for sure.
Thank you, Gene. Thank you, Gene, for those responses and examples on how your vision and strategy has helped bring about true change and transformation. We have some questions from the audience that we would like to get your thoughts on. So we'll start with the first one here. What do you think are the biggest challenges in digital transformation?
So we talked a little bit about decision making. I get stuck on decision making. Sometimes I sit in meetings with 30 people and I think to myself, I think at least 10 of the 30 people believe they own this decision. And it can really stifle how programs are set up and how they're run. So I think, siloed decision making for sure, or kind of lack of clarity on who's doing what. I believe talent is there's a really a talent gap, and quite frankly, sometimes maybe folks making decisions aren't the right talent in the room. If you haven't been in the field delivering major transformations or been part of organizations that do it and have a framework and been through the pain of it all, maybe failed a couple of times, it's hard. You need to bring that experience, and sometimes even existing on-prem talent is not aligned to kind of know where all the issues may be. It's very easy to run a clean program that's like really well funded. You've got plenty of time to deliver what you need to deliver. You got all the right talent in the room, and you have clean decision making. Yeah, those projects go pretty well. However, those projects are like a unicorn in a magic forest, because oftentimes we don't have everybody we need. You don't have the money that you need. Maybe not. Maybe you don't have the time that you need, and that's where you need really talented leaders to come in and kind of operate under sometimes less than ideal conditions. So that's also a major kind of challenge in the space. We talked about budgets, the skill gaps. All of that is true for sure. And I would also say legacy systems is another challenge where you have legacy technology. If you're trying to do a fancy thing or a cutting edge thing in an environment that's not built for it. And we talked earlier about what are you going to stop doing, right? And sometimes you need to rip the Band-Aid off and kill a system to bring something new in, which is disruptive. So those are some of the major challenges, and having leadership in place that can see through it, make decisions, create that fertile ground for that transformation to happen is really important. And it doesn't come without risk, and it doesn't come without sacrifice. And I really believe that's where that professional courage comes into play.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gene. We'll move on to the next one. What do you think is a common obstacle to digital transformation?
So, we talked about risk management, but change management for sure. Most of the time, if you're being pitched a new system to implement. I think we're very comfortable paying for, um, licensing costs. We're very comfortable at times paying for consultants to run your project, to architect solutions. And the change management components of programs, typically, it gets lost at the cutting room floor. You may look at what that investment may be, and some people choke on it. It's typically the first thing to go. And I've accepted that as a fact that as you're trying to run programs, maybe that heavy organizational change management structure may not get funded or funded well all the time. So we attempt to build in change management procedures into the teams, into the culture of the teams. So make it part of your scrum, your sprint, standard routines that kind of hit the mark from a change management perspective, whether it's training materials or in our case, sometimes where we've started social media deliveries, internal social media deliveries for new releases and new stuff that's happening with our products as part of our normal cadence of work. So maybe you don't have a dedicated organizational change management expert in the room, but you've baked it into the cake, the change management aspects that kind of over time impact the outcomes that we can see.
Thank you. Now, here's an interesting metric number here, and we touched upon it earlier. Almost 84% of digital transformation efforts typically fail. Why do you think that number is so high, and what can we do differently to improve and make this successful?
Yeah, so we've talked about some of this today. Uh, my dad used to say, proper preparation prevents poor performance. And, the upfront work to engineer, to, align mission to strategy. We talk about alignment of mission to strategy, to budget, to people doing work, to software, to outcome solutions that you may bring to market that you can measure, and then have that impact maybe your mission vision and back around in the loop is very tough work. It's very tough work that typically gets shortchanged in the process. You either don't have the right people doing that work, that business case, or in the effort to quickly get something to market, we choose to skip steps or not know those steps. But really, the dedication and the rigor by which we would do that over and over again uh, is something that yields benefits over time. It's the fertilizer for your lawn, uh, you know, that helps things grow for sure. And I think that's really that's part of it. We talked about diverse teams. We talked about the talent that's required to manage in this space where we are really hybrid. I started my latest job in 2022 or 2020, and man, middle of a pandemic, there are still people on my team that I have never met to this day. And I walk into the office that used to house 1,000 people, and there's typically less than 10 in the office. So we have the remnants of this pandemic, which requires a different leadership skill set. And while we're still trying to transform amongst teams that you cannot gain human connectivity with in kind of traditional ways, is also a very big challenge.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much. And moving forward, now I think these are, this next question would probably address a lot of things, our audience, and we'll look forward. Like, what do you think, like, are the top three trends for digital transformation, something we can look forward to in 2023 and beyond?
Yeah, I think there's certainly a lot of room in the space of automation in the work setting. So whether it's automation and DevSecOps in the healthcare business, automation of you know customer service activities, engagement across the board are really interesting and interesting and impactful things. If you think about all the stuff we talked about today around this diverse workforce that is hybrid, that is global, leveraging digital to tie all these folks together and really be part of the creation of culture, of a new digital culture, are really important for internal operational efficiencies. Uh, I think also as we deliver outcomes for our consumers, in our case, patients, consumers, team members, I think you'll see more and more platform thinking as it relates to, I think the companies that will do it the best will have a platform. I'm interested in creating a curation of a super platform, which is a clean stack of world-renowned technology pieces that come together as a common platform under a singular digital policy. And so when we have I talked about walking in that conference, right, where you have all these point solutions. I was at a conference recently, it seemed like thousands of doodads, I call them, little things that do stuff that solve a particular problem. So when onboarding those solutions, I believe that the companies that will succeed the best will have a point of view and a platform for which to onboard them, both from a security compliance perspective. We're doing things like design systems. So if you want to design something with our brand and our kind of our look and feel, we actually have a design system that organizations can lean into, and that would be the prerequisite for doing the work. Common platforms that are world renowned that people can lean into are important. So I think platforms, and how I like to call it, super platforms, and having this platform available to onboard vendors, consultants, other groups into I think is really something that is really important as well. And it all supports things like hybrid work and those other things that are top of mind.
Absolutely. Yep. Thank you so much. I think we've addressed questions from the audience. So, thank you everyone for pitching in, and I'm sure the responses from Gene, are great takeaways. So we'll close off with a closing note. So digital magic happens when you're able to leverage great technology that solves great problems for your business while simultaneously addressing the human elements of change. And building a culture that easily adapts to change will revolutionize your organization. Royal Cyber is a globally recognized award-winning technology partner that is helping companies imagine, execute, and accelerate their digital transformation journey for the past 20 years. Royal Cyber provides superior solutions that create exceptional business value, guarantee success, and transform businesses with robust and adaptable digital solutions that satisfy today's needs and unlock tomorrow's opportunities. Thank you, Gene, for joining us today and sharing some wonderful insights. I'm sure these are valuable lessons that we can all take note of and look to kick off 2023 on the right path to digital transformation. Here's wishing everyone happy holidays.